I'm Scotty T from Your Comedy Minute. I'm here with Denise Winkelman. Denise, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. I'm a little giddy. I feel like a woodpecker in a lumber yard.
There you go. There you go. It's that time of year.
You've got so much stuff that I need to cover, and I don't know
Okay.
where to start, but let's start with you're in Los Angeles. Is that correct?
I am in Los Angeles because I just love the smell of urine.
Were you, were you born and raised in Los Angeles?
Absolutely not. No,
Okay.
I am from all over the country. I've lived several spots in my life. I grew up in northern Minnesota,
Yeah.
and I got out as soon as I could. I did my time because it's way too cold. But
Right.
uh, my parents are. I have family throughout the state of Minnesota. That's kind of home. But
Okay.
my dad's, if you look at the coldest spot in the country, for the majority of the year, in the continental US, that's where my dad lives. And so there's a week window where I actually go home. It's like July 1st through July 7th. And then after that, it's terrible.
Yeah, the older I get, the less I like the cold. The older I get, man, I don't like it cold.
Oh, I don't either. I don't either. It's not fun at all. And I went home a few years ago and my parents were there and over the holidays and I was like, do I do this? Do I do this? It had been years and years and it was -5 for a high
Oh man,
every day.
where's global warming when you need it?
Yeah, and well, and over the summer they had better weather than Los Angeles
Right.
actually.
Well, the
But
reason I said I wanted to start because we have so much to cover.
mhm.
We have screenwriter, fitness model, professional wrestler, now stand-up comedy. So where do you want to start? I mean, I wrote down when did you start doing comedy, but do you want to take me back to the beginning or how do you want to
Yeah,
do this? You're the boss.
well, oh, I'm the boss. Okay, well,
It's your
let me
comedy
just.
minute, so you're in charge of the
There
show.
we go. There we go. So I'll take you all the way back. I'll go
Please,
full
please.
circle. But just so you know, I also lived in Denver for several years, or Cincinnati for several years. That's where I wrestled. Denver is where I wrestled a little bit, and then
Okay.
then I did fitness modeling. Then moved to Los Angeles in 2020.
Okay.
So I
So
started comedy back.
wrestling was the start.
Yeah, so wrestling was right after college, and
Okay.
it was really hot at the time. So this goes back a ways, back we're coming off like the Attitude Era where, wrestling was cool and everybody was into it. And
Right.
back then it was harder to find access, where now you can just type it into your smartphone and find a school. But I actually physically wrote letters and sent them to a bunch of schools,
Okay.
promotions, and was like, "Hey, I'd like to get into this." And this person in Cincinnati, at the time they had the WWE contract, wrote me back and said, "Come on out, and it was kind of affordable to live there." So moved out, and it was a weird time, but I wrestled for this place called the Northern Wrestling Federation. Their claim to fame, they had been in business for a long time, but they were more Southern style wrestling, where if you know anything about the South and kind of the tradition with Memphis and stuff like that with Jerry Lawler, they love to talk smack, man. And
Right.
you would walk out and all the people that came to these shows just wanted to yell at you like "fuck you," kind of thing. And I was at a show, like the first show I wasn't wrestling, but I was like security, and it was in the middle of nowhere in Kentucky, and they were right on the base of the hills, like in the Appalachian,
Right.
or I think that's where it is. I'm not good with geography, but they would no, they had a bar, so you would drive on this two-lane road, nothing, nothing, nothing. All of a sudden, there was a bar, a gas station, and a restaurant, and it was the same building, but they had a wrestling ring. And every Sunday night, this little promotion would have like 200 people. It would just be packed. I mean, it was cool, but I walk out and there was a good guy door and a bad guy door, and they
Yeah.
came out, and it was the same locker room, and people knew
Yeah,
that,
no,
but they,
I actually, not to
yeah,
interrupt you, but I actually did one of those, and I found it was weird because you're right, they were all in the same locker room, yet there was good and yeah, that's pretty cool.
it was very old school, and
Yeah.
and so there was this like toothless Gilmore Girl family where it was like a mom and I'll say a son like 8 years old. The daughter was maybe like six, and then there was like she was holding a baby. None of them had teeth, and this guy walks out, and they're just like "fuck you," and and then the good guy comes out and does nothing, and they're like, yeah, and so this guy who came out, and they yelled racial slurs at this dude who was on the bad guy side.
Right.
He got so much what they call heat that they had to turn him into a good guy. So they did that for a couple weeks and then turned him into a good guy because they were afraid like people would beat his ass. And so all of a sudden
Golly.
they went from like, and all the kids are yelling "fuck you," and the mom's holding the baby's middle finger up, kind of thing. And 2 weeks later, like he helps a good guy out, and he could have ran for mayor in this place. And
Okay.
so
What?
I called home that night, Minnesota, and I was just like, everything we said about Kentucky was true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some stereotypes are there for a reason, but
Um, I, I don't know. Do you want to keep going? Because I mean,
oh
we're
yeah,
just the
I can
wrestling.
keep going. Yeah. So sometimes I just get on a roll.
No,
So
it's
feel
fine.
free.
Like I
Um,
said, this is your show, so you can do.
okay.
I mean, again, I want to move on to silly, sassy, and absolute hussy.
Yeah. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there.
All
It's a
right.
process. So wrestling, I did '03 to '08 in this Northern Wrestling, and it was a training school. Like if you follow WWE, like Carl Anderson started there. If you follow TNA, at the time now Impact, like Abyss started there. Wildcat Chris Harris all started there. Several pretty big names have come through.
Okay.
With Cincinnati wrestling, I did, I was friendly. We worked programs with like John Moxley, who was WWE champion, Carl Anderson, of course, he was one of my best friends at the time.
Okay.
And so really there's a lot of guys who didn't make it, but a lot of people came through that place.
Okay.
And so it was a pretty good place to learn. I probably wrestled 400 to 500 matches during 5 years. It started to
Were
hurt
you
a
the good or
lot.
the bad?
I did both. When you're around that long, you do
Okay.
both.
All right.
I started as a bad guy, and for me, it was like a precursor to stand up because at the time I was really quiet and but kind of soft spoken, and then my friends would be like, I can't believe how you just transform when you get a mic,
Yeah.
right?
Put you out of your
And
shell. Yeah.
so my friend who was in WWE, he used to introduce me to his WWE friends like, hey, they're the best talker I've ever spoken to, or when you watch them on a mic, the best promo I've seen
Okay.
in business. Because I would just get on there and yell and I would say stupid stuff. And it was a lot of fun. They give us a lot of freedom and really highly recommend learning from the trainer there, Roger Ruffin. He'd been in the business for a long time. He reffed in WWE, reffed at WrestleMania, stuff like that. So
I will hashtag all the people you mention or anyone you want to mention.
yeah, Raj is great. And a good place to learn if you're looking to kind of learn the business the right way from the ground up.
Okay.
I know Carl Anderson talks very, very highly of Raj. And so yeah, a good place to learn, did a lot of matches. After a while, it just started to hurt. I turned good, for periods of time. I think I won the tag belts with a partner 2 or 3 times, and then I was
Cool.
like the tri-state champion for a while. So, I'm a professional
But your
championship.
body started to hurt, and is that when the fitness modeling, or was that part of when you were wrestling?
So I was working a day job, and my day job in 2013 moved me to Denver. So really went through a few year period where I didn't do a lot. And so I started wrestling in Denver. I wrestled for 6 months, and I
Okay.
was wrestling with Vince Russo. Vince Russo was writing it, and
Okay.
Vince Russo, and you don't have to hashtag Russo, but he wrote for WWE back in the Attitude Era.
Okay.
You either love that guy or hate him. Most people, are kind of,
Right.
mm, and he was very nice to me, but he got one idea. He would take one look at you, and I was always a good talker, but he wanted me to be China because I was tall. And I'm like, he told me once I wasn't pretty. And when you tell me something, I'm like, okay, screw you, buddy.
Right.
And so my friends at the time, they were one was an ex WWE diva, and she knew all the like photographers in Colorado, and she set me up with one of the best, and we did like test photos or a photo shoot, and then I started working as a model for a few years, and
Okay.
right
Cool.
around the same time as when I started stand up. So I was looking for more of a creative outlet. I was starting to get more and more migraines, which I'm still plagued with, and so with wrestling taking the beating, I think it really started to like mess up my back, and
Took
I'm
its
like,
toll.
yeah, this isn't where I'm at right now.
Right.
So comedy was interesting. I was thinking of doing it. I was writing a bit. I never did any open mics. But there was this charity I was aligned with, and they said, "Oh, you want to do stand up? We'll give you 8 minutes on one of our fundraisers." And it was 300 people. And day one, and I was shaky. I shook the mic, but I
It was
got
your first show.
first show,
300
first
people. 8
300 people,
minutes.
8 minutes. And I was shaky, like I would shake the mic a little bit, but
Right.
I got enough laughs where I showed like the producer of my special like a few minutes of it, and they were like, "Holy gosh, you killed!" And I was
Okay.
like, "I didn't kill, but like but it was a good start, and it gave me the confidence to kind of keep going."
Okay. Well, so in other words, that kind of, because I always ask, when did you start doing comedy, and then the catalyst, what was the, was there something that just, it was your body starting to, you decided, the head migraines and this and that, that you wanted to try something different.
Well, and I was working in finance, which is ridiculous,
Okay.
if you know me, but I was working a day job. I still, have a day job, but I love work, like I
Comedy.
love what I do, but I love comedy. I always
Right.
like
Okay.
comedy growing up. In my mind, like I always thought comedians were just, oh man, like I can't do that. Like I had people in high school tell me I should do stand up. And at the time, you would see them on Comedy Central, like these stand-ups and stuff. And I'd be like, I can't do that. I can't do that. And so it was more me telling myself I couldn't do it. And then I started to realize, well, I want to write my own stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a good writer. I'm a good talker. Why wouldn't I do stand up? And
Okay.
and so once I started it, I realized I could. Had a lot to learn, and it was a lot of work, but I just fell in love with it right away.
Okay.
I just wish I would have tried it like a long time ago.
Well, and I mentioned it, silly, sassy, and absolute hussy is your description on YouTube and on Facebook and this and that. And you have a whole line of merchandise. As I said, I'm going to include the links to your homepage or your website and your Facebook and your Instagram and all the, your social media. Um,
Awesome.
but I wanted to talk about your first comedy album, Bougie on a Budget.
Yeah,
Okay.
Bougie, yeah, let's do it. Well, and thank you for doing that.
Well,
Really
no,
appreciate
and I'm sorry if I jumped
it.
ahead, but when you have so much
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you spend 8 minutes on wrestling, hell, we'll never get through everything.
Well, there's always going to have to be part two then. I got to leave them wanting more.
Hey, hey,
So,
let's get through for round one first. I'm a little rickety on this one. I'm a little
No,
nervous about this one.
oh, don't be nervous. So Bougie,
We're all right. We're gonna get through it.
yeah. So with Bougie on a Budget, we recorded it. It was my
Well,
debut
you know what? Let
special.
me let me just interrupt, and I apologize. But in other words, we moved from Denver to you doing stand up and doing it for years now, and now we're on to the special
Uh-huh.
Bougie on a budget.
Yeah, so well, I moved to let's back up for just a second. Then I'll take control, kind of thing. And I moved to Los Angeles at the beginning of 2020. 2 weeks after I moved, everything shut down,
Yeah,
and
COVID.
the story of my life, just perfect timing.
Yeah,
Coming out of the pandemic, I would make jokes. It's like, I was doing fitness modeling, and during the pandemic, I started to look like an ugly Mickey Rourke, to kind of, I'm like, what is going on right now? Like, what, but moved to Los Angeles, and actually the pandemic, I know we all hated it. I would have much rather been out doing shows and things like
right,
that. But what it allowed me to do, because I was unemployed for the first time in my life for a year, it allowed me to get to know people, pardon me, in Los Angeles. And so I did so many Zoom shows during the time. I started working.
okay.
If you remember Dat Fan, who won Last Comic
Yep,
Standing and
yep,
first Last Comic Standing, well, he lives in the same area I do, and
okay,
we would always be COVID compliant, so we would do Zoom shows from our house. But I would do a lot of like Zoom mics, stuff like that, and it allowed me
okay,
to really write and get better as a
right,
writer. And I learned a lot. And I just saw like something pop up on my Facebook from 4 years ago. We were doing like 2, 3 Zoom mics a day sometimes,
okay.
and other people on there were on the same shows were Nishi XL, who's doing really good here, has had a special. Angelica Skumara, who's from
She's been on the show. She won the Boston Comedy Festival,
yeah,
which
she
you
did.
you were you were a runner up in 2020.
Yeah,
I did my
2020.
homework. I got a lot of
Oh
stuff.
yeah, there you go. Yeah, so she just won actually the year we both did it together that
Okay.
year. So it was virtual, but in 2020 she was a semifinalist as well, and then she won it this
She
year.
won it this year,
Uh,
Angelica Scanora.
yeah, I love her. She's
Yeah, I
so
love her too. She
so,
was
so
great.
funny.
We had a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then the other one was Claude Stewart, and Claude has blown up just some dry bar specials, and he's a writer on a game
Yeah.
show, all this stuff. Great, and so like the talent on those mics were really really good, including that. And I still work with that. Like he built a Zoom studio in his garage, essentially, where you get a tape, you can work on your stuff, like really good
Okay.
comedian. So it's an easy, like, kind of workout thing to work on new
Right.
material. But I met a lot of people through that, and it's a great way to network, kind of build your circle. So really grateful for that time, and then been in Los Angeles ever since. And yeah, it's a hustle, it's a grind. I've
Yeah.
been going out more because I love doing San Diego because it's better feedback, and it's hard to get a real audience in California because everything is about filling the seats, and most of the
Yeah.
people that come are just, grizzled artists who are just like I feel like they're all smoking in the back, just like not funny at all. Not, they're so dead inside that they wouldn't know how to
Okay.
laugh if they could. And it's the Botox too, right? You have so much Botox in your face. It's like, I can't smile. I can't smile. And so
Okay.
but I like Los Angeles, but I love doing shows out of LA, where and San Diego has been really good to me. So
Okay.
go down there quite a bit.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I decided to do, I've had a lot of friends do specials,
Right.
and I'm like, well, I don't think I'm at the point where I can't just wait in line to get in at the Comedy Store and have somebody tap me on the shoulder. So I'm gonna make a move. And my thing was I want to work really hard. I want it to be a calling. I want it to be something I'm proud of, and I want to do it right. So we recorded it at one of the legendary theaters in North Hollywood. It's called the El Portal. They've filmed like Hacks there. They've filmed several TV shows, several specials, and their claim to fame was Marilyn Monroe used to go to plays there as a kid, in
Okay.
sixth grade.
And this is
So
the bougie on a budget special you're
yeah,
talking about, right?
yeah, bougie on a budget. So that's going
Okay.
to be my debut special and my debut album.
Okay.
So we recorded it back in March. Turned out so well, and it took a while to get through the editing.
Yeah.
Now we're in the process of shopping it essentially to networks.
Okay.
I just was offered my first distribution deal with it, which is huge.
That's wonderful.
So what they do then is they'll shop it and we'll decide on the best platform. And
Okay.
so I've been kind of bogged down with some of the business stuff this year,
Sure.
getting that up and going, but it looks really positive. I think it's going to come out early next year.
Okay.
And I should know by the end of the year where it'll come out, what it'll do. So just follow my website, my
Yeah.
socials, it'll be all over that.
And I'll do anything I can to help out. Maybe, if you act right, maybe I'll have you back on.
Uh, well, what if I just slightly step out of line? Will you still
You're
have me back?
fucked. You're fucked. I'm kidding you.
I'm
I'm
already
kidding you.
screwed.
This is your this is your
If you,
show.
if you're,
Let's move on
yeah.
to
Well,
comedian.
if you're watching this, you see how passive aggressive that was. Like
I'm
you just,
just
I'm not
messing with
coming.
you.
He's
I'm
not
trying
gonna have
to
me back.
trying to
I'm
add some
already
comedy. This is
uncomfortable.
a comedy show for shit's sake. Jesus God. Comedians that inspired you and comedians that you like now. In other words, just to give you a little back, I met Rodney Dangerfield. I had a conversation with George Carlin. Met Lewis Black, Stephen Wright. I'm Henny Youngman, old school. So that's what I'm looking for. Comedians that inspired you and comedians you like now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, great question. Back in the day, between SNL and In Living Color, I always liked In Living Color a little bit
Yeah.
better.
Okay.
But my class, I guess, where the people like like around a little older, like Adam Sandler was a big deal back in the day. But as a stand-up, I didn't know a lot. I just knew his songs about him. But that kind of elk, Sandler, Farley, and I loved. Jim Carrey was a big deal for a while, but I
Okay.
didn't watch their stand-up. It was Chris Rock that really hit me as a
Okay.
stand-up because he was so tight. He was
Yeah.
so good.
Precise. Yeah.
I was just watching one of his specials when he was really, really pumping back in the day, like
Yeah.
uh minute 33 of like a random special, and I counted the laughs for a minute and it was like 12 laughs and he had like four applause breaks. I mean, think of that. Like in today, he was just killing it and it was topical, it was real. I just love that dude. There was a random one. They did a documentary on him, The Amazing Jonathan, which he would do like magic, but it was like more of a lounge show. He did Vegas for a
Yeah.
long time, but he did like a half hour on Comedy Central, and I just thought it was fantastic.
Okay.
And then back in the day, when I was in Cincinnati, Bob and Tom would have comedians on all the time.
Mhm.
And I would listen to these random folks, but the ones that they would have back on at the time were like Roy Wood Jr., who's on The Daily
Roy Wood.
Show
Yeah.
now. And then Daniel Tosh would go on there, but
Yeah.
Birbiglia was one that came out of that. Greg Warren, um, uh,
Okay.
Stephen Lynch, who was a
Yeah.
singer comic. But I remember Birbiglia and Roy Wood, they just really stood out. And the fact that
Okay.
they built a huge base in the Midwest, I thought was cool. And then on Last Comic Standing, and she's still one of my favorites, is Eliza.
Liza Schlesinger.
Eliza Schlesinger. She
Okay.
I took some people in Denver who had never seen her to just like a show at Comedy Works in 2019 where she was working Elder Millennial before she recorded it.
Okay.
That special, and it was just boom, boom, boom,
Yeah,
boom,
yeah, yeah.
boom. And my friends texted me the next day that their ribs were black and blue from laughing so hard.
Right.
And I just love that. And then comics that I love now, who are I think are going to break. I call them like comics that make you laugh different. There's a girl here in LA who opened for Dana Gould for a long time. She has like a album, maybe a special, but at least an album. Her name is Valerie Tossi. She's
Okay.
awesome. And then there's a girl who opened for Cedric for a long time. She's written for him as well.
Okay.
I saw her record her half hour, but she's actually based in Mississippi or Georgia now.
Okay.
Rita Brent, and Rita is just awesome.
Well, I'd love to have them on the show if you can help me get them. I'd love to have them
Uh,
both on the show.
sure.
Do you have a favorite show that you've done so far, and then of course follow up least favorite show
Well, favorite show,
that you've performed on, not something you watched on TV, that you performed.
yeah. Well, I got a lot. In the
I mean,
in the
I'm
yeah,
guessing that when you recorded the Bougie on a Budget, that was a very special night for you.
that was extremely special.
Yeah.
It meant the world to me that so many people in LA came out,
Right.
and we the production crew was great, and I had met a lot of the production crew. I knew the
Right.
producer, but they very complimentary. Like my friends were involved, like all very, very positive things, and
Okay.
that was great. And then, like I said, I love performing San Diego. I've done San Diego a couple of times to full rooms at the Mic Drop Comedy Club, and those nights have been great. Doing Comedy Works in Denver, I did one of the contests, and it was like 350 people, like probably more than that. They were draped all over each other.
Cool.
And that was super fun too.
Least favorite. If you haven't figured it out, I'm an idiot.
Well, least
You know
favorite.
why I want least favorite? Because I want to hear, where it just, the wheels come off.
Well, least favorite is yeah, probably going to bar shows where you drive 2 hours in Orange County, so you're fighting traffic the whole way you get there. I'll give you a specific one. My least favorite was I was headlining the show in San Diego,
Okay.
and the GPS said 2.5 hours to get there.
Right.
I gave myself an extra hour, and the time on the GPS kept building and building and building. So I gave myself like honestly, it was like an hour and a half. I was late to the show,
Oh my.
and like really late to the show. Like it was half hour in. Now the person that booked it was cool, but I thought I was gonna have time to just, kind of get a coffee, relax, and it was so stressful. Like the traffic is what made it terrible. So
Okay. Right.
like my friends gave me medical advice, and one friend told me to stop eating dirty ass.
Okay.
And
Sounds like sound
there,
advice.
there's no cure for fibromyalgia. So I'll eat as much dirty ass as I want to. Thank you very much. I'll motorbutt, I'll go to a buffet, just and if you watch me just do that, that's why
Yeah.
I'm single. Like that's because that's how you eat ass. That's
Yeah,
disgusting.
yeah. Jokes about eating ass leave a bad taste in my mouth.
There you go. There you go. Mine too.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to throw you a couple. You want to? We don't have a lot of time because we're going to get to your comedy minute, but I want to make sure we cover everything. Is there something I know we didn't? We tried brushed over, but man, there's so much to cover.
Very very unique background. No, I've had fun. Like this has been a blast.
Yeah.
Just keep follow me on social. Sign up. We didn't touch on the hussy thing, but it's
Well,
just
yeah,
been
and we can do that real quick because you do have a whole line of merchandise, and as far as a hussy, I'm good with that. I know all about that.
Oh yeah, and I mean that,
I've known my share of hussies.
a friend asked me, why don't you just say slut? And I was like, because hussy is kinder, and
Yeah.
I'm very pro hussy, but I always call myself
How
a
did that come
hussy.
about? How did you come up with that?
Well, I think it's a wrestling thing because we used to call each other
Okay.
husky in the locker room and stuff.
Right.
And
Okay.
but it's just being if you look up the definition, it's like having a woman who has multiple sexual partners and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
is inappropriate. And I'm just like, that's me. And
What
I
do you?
always
You
love
probably know this one, but what do you give the girl that's got everything?
I don't.
Penicillin. Penicillin.
Yeah, oh yeah, there you go.
Penicillin.
There you go.
That's a
Yeah,
hussy. That's a hussy joke.
yeah, cream will wipe it all away, right?
Oh God. I don't mind the itching, but I hate the swelling.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, but it's one of those things too. Like I always love the term, and I've been calling myself a hussy for a long time, and
Okay.
I love the double meaning. So I say team hussy a lot,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
I call it the team hussy movement.
yeah.
And the lesbians love the team hussy merch
Good,
because
good.
they love to advertise, and I'm like, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. I did
Whatever
a
it takes.
I did a Pride show in San Diego. That's one of the
Yeah.
shows I do in San Diego, and I had so many lesbians buy a merch off
Good,
of
good,
that.
good.
I was like, I like this group. I like this group. They're fun.
Cool. Well, again, I think I give it a stamp of approval. So when we're ready to launch the thing, you can come back and we'll have you back on.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I know you're so excited. But
I am.
you know what time it is, right? Do you know what time it is?
Are we gonna share where to get the cream?
Well, it's called Your Comedy Minute. I told you. And here's a little advice. Don't let the truth get in the way of a good story. But I'm going to introduce you and you can make up and do whatever you want. All
Okay,
right? You ready?
I am ready.
All right.
I'm born ready.
You seem like you weren't ready.
Well, I was letting you build it. You gotta.
Can't you see I can't build? Can't you see we got a situation, you asshole? All right. Hey, Denise Winkelman, your comedy minute. Go ahead.
So I get these comments online. I'm a trans woman. Yes, I'm not a hero. You can applaud in your background, but I'm a trans woman, and so live this weird life. And one of the comments when I post videos about me being trans that I get a lot is, um, "Well, you're not a real woman. You don't have a uterus." Well, that's one of the perks of being trans.
Okay.
If I were, I never wanted a uterus. If I would have been asked, you can transition, but you have to have a uterus, I would have said no, probably. If if a uterus is how things happen, like after a round of mimosas and you make some bad decisions, and all of a sudden you have a baby on your hip, and you're
Right.
in a trailer and you're smoking a heater. Like that's how bad things happen. Like it happened to every girl in my graduating class. I
All
mean,
right.
a uterus is not what I was going for.
Okay. That's wonderful.
You're so shocked and appalled right now. Yeah,
No, as a
I'm
matter of fact, I
excited.
didn't want to because that's where, I didn't want this to come off the rails or anything, but I want you to know, and this is from my heart. I do a bit about this, and I don't care if you're lesbian, bi, gay, trans, asexual, pansexual. I don't give a shit. Okay?
Okay,
I come from York, Pennsylvania. A guy fucked a sheep.
there you go.
Okay, so in other words, I do a bit about it, but it's also from my heart. And again, I wanted to be very careful today because I don't want to piss anybody off that way. That
Mhm,
he's this or that. It's just not my style.
sure.
You know.
Well, and I appreciate that. I mean, I'm very open about
Yeah,
it.
but you notice I was very careful to broach. Matter of fact, we didn't talk about it the whole time.
Yeah, and I try not to lead with that, but I've been
Yeah,
working that joke and I'm like, dude, I like this. I like this joke. I'm gonna do it. So,
cool, cool. And
okay.
again, we
Yeah.
talked about if you had a good time, you're going to come back when we launch the special, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, cool. Let me
Absolutely.
stop the recording so we can spend a minute off the air.
Cool.